Hello student. Today we will discuss about the railway engineering. So if you remember that we have discussed in the first class that transportation engineering is basically consisting of four modules. In the first module we have discussed about your some basic concept of the the bridge engineering, the loading pattern of the bridge engineering, what are the various types of load come on the surface of the bridge or the superstructure of the bridge. And in the second module we have discussed about the various aspect of the traffic engineering, means what are the various topics or what are the various component of the traffic engineering. The third module is consisting of your various type of transportation history, means the Jaikar committee, your Nagpur road plan, your Bombay road plan. So these are the some consisting of your third module. And the fourth module is dealing with the railway engineering part. So what are the things have been covered in the railway engineering? So this is the last module of your transportation engineering. So basically we will learn what are the component are used or what are the component we should learn before reading the railway engineering. So without wasting any time, let's start with the railway engineering module. So, as we discussed that today's topic is an introduction of railway engineering. As you all know that myself, Dr. Debasish Das, I am the assistant professor of Civil Engineering Department, JS College of Engineering, Kolyani. This is my email ID, mobile number, and WhatsApp number. So, if you have any query regarding any topic, you may contact with me with this WhatsApp number or email ID. So I prefer to get some query in email ID, as it may not be possible to attend all the calls and to reply all the WhatsApp messages, but it will be better if you can ask me the query your through the email ID. So let's start the railway engineering. So before going to railway engineering, first we discuss about the what are the things or the what are the syllabus covered on this railway engineering. So the first thing is that the railway transportation and the importance in India, means what are the transportation, because railway is one of the major transportation system in India. So before going to deep about the railway engineering, first we have to understand what is the basic thing about the railway engineering. What is permanent way? What are the requirement and the components? What is gauge? What type of, there are various type of gauges are there. Means gauge means the railway track. So if you see the gauges, the width, the gap between two gauges, suppose these two are the gauge, so the gap between this gap is different for different type of the area. For the plain area, this gap, and if you go to the hilly area, this gap will be reduced. This gap will be reduced. So what will be this gap? So we cannot give this gap randomly. There are some protocol given by the IRC that for the plain area, the the gap will be 1.67 meter, and it is called as the meter gauge. Sorry, broad gauge. But if you go to the hilly area, it is meter gauge. The meter gauge means that it is a length of 1 meter. So there are various type of gauges are there, and these are the classification are given by the IRC. Next, the selection of the gauge means where and which type of gauges we will going to select for which type of area. So basically it is depends on the location. Then the coning of the wheels. So I will not give the details at the beginning. This is just the syllabus of your subject. We will discuss a topic wise at the later stage. Next is the edging of wheel. Then the rails function, the functions, components of the rails, the rail, steel, type of the rail section, requirement of an ideal rail section, length of the rail, defects in the rail, then what is creep, and then what is long welded rails and the continuous welded rails. So first we will discuss about the what is railway engineering, what is the definition of the railway engineering. So railway engineering is the basic branch of civil engineering which deals with the design, construction and maintenance of the railway track for safety and efficient movement of the trains is called railway engineering. Means the portion of the engineering which are dealing with the movement of the trains, it in terms of passenger, in terms of goods, is basically defined as the railway engineering. Next, what is the importance of the railway engineering, means why we study this subject. So basically the Indian railway carries most of the long distance passenger traffic and 80% of the total freight. Total freight means suppose there are 100% of the transportation, transportation modes, because there are various type of transportation modes. What are those? The water, the railway, the air, and the road. So these four are the major transportation aspects. So if you see that out of this four, 80% of the passengers are traveled to using this railway path or the railway mode. So it is one of the important aspect considering the uses of its modes or uses of it in the society. Next is the Indian Railways provide employment to a huge number of people in the country. Yes, approximately few lakhs or few millions of workers are involved, direct or indirectly involved in railway engine. So this is one of the basic earning livelihood in the society. So we have to give some importance in this to this railway engineering part. Third one is the provide mail services. Yes, as I said that apart from the passenger, it also provide the mail services and the good services. They carry a big chunks of goods from place of production to the ports. Iron and steel industry based upon the railway as they transport raw materials and finished product from one place to another. So, as we know, the steel is one of the important raw material or the material used for any type of construction, and it is heavy weighted. So, the railway is the best option to transfer or to transport the raw material or the finished material from one portion to another portion of the country in a less time and in a cheaper way, because railway is the transportation cost in railway is comparatively less to the highway or to the waterway or and obviously to the airway. So next we go to the first thing came in our mind that what is track. When we are discussing about the railway engineering or the railway aspect, the first thing came in our mind is track. So from childhood to our old age, we even seen these tracks in many places. In some of our houses are near to stations, some of our schools are near to stations, offices are near to stations. So we are habituated to see this railway track. But the railway tracks is not only a simple railway tracks. There are lots of parameters or lots of factors are involved, or lots of component are there for construction of any railway track. So it is as simple as looking from outside, but when we design, go to the design part or the component part, it is really a tricky one for design a railway track. So before going to railway track, first we have to understand some basic terminology about the component of the railway track. So it is a basically a combination of rails fitted on sleepers and resting on ballast, and subgrade is called as the railway track. So railway track is not only that railway track. Railway track is the combination of rail, sleeper, ballast, and the subgrade. So what is rail, what is sleeper, what is ballast, and what is subgrade? These four terms we need to know. So I think the subgrade part is already known, because as I discussed in the first classes, before going to read this railway, you should have some idea as a prerequisite of your idea on the pavement or pavement materials or the basic highway and transportation engineering. And there you have read the subgrade. Subgrade is nothing but the bottommost layer of the earth, means bottommost layer of the surface ground, upon which the roads are laying down or upon which the tracks are laid down. So basically, what is rail, what is fitted, what is sleeper, and what is ballast? That's the three new parameters we need to know. So if you see the diagram, so you can easily see this. Okay, so this one is the mm, this one is the rails. This one is the rail. So rails is basically the longitudinal direction, the length, the steel provided in the longitudinal direction, and above which the trains are moving. So this is basically the rail. And the gaps between the inner part of the rail, the gap between two inner part of the rail is known as the gauge. Now this gauge are, as I discussed, the gauge width is different for the different type of the area. Next is the, so it is, you understand about the rail. Next thing is the sleeper. So sleeper is what? The rails are laid upon some base. So this base is known as the sleeper. So sleepers are basically two types. One is means based on the types of the material used. One is your wooden sleeper, another is your concrete sleeper. So in the wooden sleeper is not no longer used in present scenario. So we are basically use the concrete sleeper, and another is your steel sleeper. So basically the sleepers, the materials of the based on the materials of the sleepers are three types. One is wooden, another is concrete, and third one is the steel. So we are basically using in maximum cases the concrete sleeper. Next one is your ballast. So ballast is nothing but the stone, the big stones laying or provided to hold this sleeper. Means if suppose these two are the sleeper, so these two are the sleepers. So in between two sleeper we provide some ballast. So this is the ballast of the stone chips which are responsible to hold this sleeper in a position. So next we will discuss about the permanent way. What is permanent way? So the basic components of the permanent way is rail. Yes, rail. This one is the rail part, means the upon which the trains are moving. Then the ballast part. Yes, these are the stones. Then the sleeper. So these are the sleeper. This one sleeper. This one sleeper. These are some concrete sleeper. And gauge. Gauge means the distance between the inner part of the rails. These are the gauges. So next is the component of the rails. So what are the various component of the rails? So rails are the steel girder which provide the hard and smooth surface for movement of the wheel of locomotive and railway vehicles. Sorry. A rail is designated by weight per unit length which can be found as per locomotive axle load. Means the rail is basically designed based on the total load comes upon that rail. Means the based on means if it is a good train, if it is a passenger train, if it is a express train, if it is a malgari sorry your local train, whether it's a express train or it is suppose your super express like Rajdhani or the Shatabdi Express or Duronto or Tejas, like that. So based on the type of the train, the load will be different for the different type of the category of the train. So based on that, this is a weight per unit length we have to calculate it before designing the way, designing the rail. So here it is 1 by 510. So 510 is for Indian scenario. This load is the locomotive axle load in ton. This is 510 ton. This is for only for the Indian aspect. So if you move to any other country, this value will be different. So the rail section of 60 kg per meter and 52 kg per meter are more economical and have been adopted recently on BG. BG means broad gauge. BG tracks on Indian railway. Next is the functions of the railway. What are the various functions of the railway? So the it provides a hard, smooth and unchanging surface for passengers of heavy moving loads with a minimum friction between the steel rail and the steel wheel. Rails bear the stress developed due to heavy vertical loads, lateral and braking forces and thermal stresses. The rail material used in such that it gives the minimum wear to above replacement charges and failure of rails due to wear and tear. The rails transmit the load to sleeper and consequently reduce the passive pressure on ballast and the formation below. So the first thing what we discussed, the provide hard, smooth and unchanging surface. Okay, because if we use another type in some rough type of material instead of your steel, then the surface will be something different. So when the vehicles are moving, the surface may changes. But for the steel rails, uh, it is very tough to change the surface of that particular type of the railway track. The rail bear the stresses developed due to the heavy vertical loads. Mean whatever loads coming on the tracks due to the heavy loaded of the train, it is basically bear the stresses. So these are the some functions, means why we provide the rails. So these are the some properties because it carries the load, it carries the stresses, it transmits the load. So these are the some properties of the rail which should be considered as the function of the rail. Then what are the composition of the rail steel? As we discussed that the rails are basically manufactured of steel. So as properties or the composition of the steel, the same compositions are for the rails. So this is the various types of the materials: the carbon, manganese, then silicon, sulfur, and phosphorus. These are the some raw material or the component for steel, and from that steel the rail steels or the rails are manufactured. So these are the for ordinary rails, and these are for rails on point and crossing. What is point and crossing? I'll not go to details. These are some signaling process. Just remember one thing: these are the used in your signaling process, and that cases the types of the rails are different. Means where the two trains are crosses at a point. So at those point the rails, the components or the composition of the steel will be different. So that will be discussed in the later stage. So basically for the ordinary it is a high carbon steel, and for the your point and crossing it is a medium carbon steel. Next is the requirement of the rail. So what are the various requirements of the rail? Composition of steel should be proper. The center of gravity of the rail section must lie approximately at mid height so that the maximum tensile and compressive stresses are equal. Yes, definitely the center of gravity should be at the middle. So if this is a rail, suppose this is the rail going to the longitudinal direction, the center should be at the middle point so that the maximum tensile and the compressive strength are equal. The head must be sufficiently deep to protect it from wear. Yes, this is the head. Suppose this is the head. So the head should be sufficiently deep so that it protect the wear. Means when the trains are moving on the rails at a high speed, there will be definitely a chances of wear and tear of the steel. So the deep, the more the head will be deep, the less will be the wear. So it will be supported that, or it will be provided that the head should be sufficiently big. The web must be sufficiently thick to provide the flexural rigidity. Yes, definitely this is the web. This is the web part. Means the topmost is the foot, upper is the head, and the connector between two is the web part. So web part should be sufficiently thick so that the flexible rigidity should be sustained. The foot should be sufficiently wide to resist the overturning. Yes, definitely this part should be widened enough, this footpath, so that the vehicle so that the train should cannot be overturned in some places. So for these are the some types of the rail. So basically if you see that the types of the rail is differentiate based on the different shape of the head and the foot. So first one is the double headed rails. So what is double headed rails? Double headed rails is the foot and the head is similar to each other. It is symmetrical to each other. So that is can be inverted and reused. Used earlier means if you the reuse we can reuse the rails, the double headed rails from the previous part. Second one is the bull headed rails. Bull headed means the top head is looking something like bull, even after wear can be withstand stresses. Last one is the flat footed rails. Is which one is the discuss the just before the earlier slide. That is the flat footed rails. Pressure will be less on the sleeper, most commonly used in the India. So these are the selection of the rails. Mean when we select which type of rail. So based on the gauge type of the rail, based on the gauge of the track, based on the speed of the train, based on the spacing of the sleeper, and based on the axle load and the nature of the traffic, we will select the different type of the rails. Next is the length of the rails. What are the various length of the rails? So as governed by the factor, the manufacturing cost should be reasonable. The transportation facilities are available, and facilities of lifting and handling are available. So there are these are the some things we need to be kept in mind when we laying some rails. The length of the rails, according to the length of the rails, these are the some governed factor. On Indian Railway, the standard lengths are 42 feet for broad gauge and 39 feet for the meter gauge. MG means the meter gauge. Next is the defects in rail. So what are the defects? So as it is made of a steel, so there must be some defects. So as it is a steel, first thing came in our mind is the corrugation effect or the rotting effect. Means it is in open air. The sun ray comes on the surface of the road. The rain comes on the surface of the road. So there must be some corrugation effect. Yes, Yes, it is. Some corroborated effect will always be there. So the first defect is the corroboration or the roaring rails. Next is the hog rails, or next is the kings in rails and the bucklings of the rail. So what is corroborated, what is hogged, and what is king, and what is buckling? That will be discussed in the next slide. So this is the corrugated or roaring rails. So if you see, this is the track, and this is that some parts are, some undulations are there. In some parts, that suppose some parts are not affected so much, but some parts are badly affected due to the movement of the rail. So due to the traction of the wheel on the train, roaring sound is heard from the rails. So sometimes I think all of you have some time of your life, or some at some point you have traveled in the train. So in some portions of the track you may found some really noise sound, really noise sound. And you and I remember when I traveled in my childhood, I really scared that what are this roaring sound is coming from the track. So this is nothing but the unevenness of the railway track. So this unevenness of the railway track is one of the responsible due to the load. One parameter is load, another is the types of the materials used at that particular area. So this is basically as written that this is due to the traction on the wheel of the train, roaring sound is heard from the rail. So measures taken to rectify: grinding the rail head. Yes, the we have to grind the surface of the rail using some grinding machine. Yes, we have, you all have shown in your house that your parents or your mother are using the grinding machine for mixing of the spices, or mixing machine. So this is nothing but the grinding. This is it basically surface clear the uneven from by grinding from the surface of the railway track. Next is the hog rail. What is hog rail? From the diagram itself you can visualize that what is hog rail. So due to the repeated hitting action of wheel over the end of the rails, the rail get bent down and get deflected at the end. So what is end? Which one is the end part? So I think this one is some little bit confusing, because you can see that this is a one straight line. So no, as we discussed that, so if you go to that, for BG broad gauge the length of the one segment is 42 feet, and for meter gauge it is 39 feet. So this is basically a segmented part. So suppose this one is the one segment, again we another segment, again we place the another segment. So by this type of segment, we divided these rails. And if you see that these are the joining part, this one is one joint, this one is another joint. So basically they join these tracks in a particular some using some hinges. So what is the name of these hinges, we will come in the later stage. What is the fish plate, or what is the knob, so what are the things are used to tie up these two portion of the railway tracks will become in the later stage. So first one is the hog rails. So hog rails is what basically the at the particular at the end portion of a particular the end portion of a particular slab, when it is bented down, or it is deflected from its original shape due to the repeated train loading or repeated heating effect, the hog rail may occur. So it measures taken to rectify is cropping, replacing, welding, and dehogging. Next is the kings or shoulders in the road. So yes, if you see that the due to the loose packing at the joints, as I said that some joints are there to join the individual segment of the railway track. So due to the loose packing at joints and defect in gauges, the end in adjoining rails move slightly out of this position. Means it is not in the same alignment. There are some derailment or some deflection in the tracks are there, which are the most responsible for any train derailment, the train accident. So this kings or shoulder inserts is one of the most vital defects in the railway. So what are the measures we should take? So the measures are correcting the alignment at joints, proper packing of joints, proper maintenance of the tracks. Next we go to the buckling of the rail. So it is, if you see the diagram, it is clearly visible that the railway is going to this way, and suddenly it bented like this and again in the same direction. So this is basically buckling. Buckling is the deformation shape due to the temperature variation. The deformed shape due to the temperature variation. So let's see what is the buckling. On account of temperature variation, the track has gone out of its original positions or alignment. This is due to prevention of expansion of rail in a hot weather. So what are the measures taken? The fish bolt should not be tightened too hard. Proper lubricant should be done, and expansion gaps should be provided. Yes, there must be some gap should be keeping in between two segments. Suppose this one segment, this one is another segment. So we never hold these two segments or join the two segments like this. There must be some gap. Why this gap? So this gap is keeping for the increase in the length during the summer season and squeeze of the size during the winter season. You have already read the temperature effect on metal in 11 12. So it is not new thing to you that due to the temperature variation, the length and there will be some deformation in the length in the summer and in the winter season. So this is the main reason for the buckling of rails. So this is the pictorial view of the various type of railway failures. So if you see that there are various types of failure which are shown in this figure. So in the railway tracks, all of these railway failures may occur for one or two railway the railway failures may occur in any portion, and which are responsible for any type of derailment or any type of fatal accidents. Now, what is wear of the rails? So what is wear? Wear and tear is nothing but a broken part. The tracks are broken due to heavy load or due to any other reason. So the heavy axle load and the first speed of the train result in wear and tear of the rail. The type of wear of the rails: one, wear on the head of the rail and wear at the end of the rail. The third one is the wear on the side of the head. So this one is the side of the head. So if you see, so this one is the head, this one is your foot or tail. So this is a wear in the side of the head. So there are various types of wear and tear effect may occur. So this is the wear on the head, this one is the wear on the side of the head, and this is the wear at the top surface of the rail. So that the metal from the top of the rail flows and forms burrs which later get chipped off, causes grinding action of dust particles between rail and wheels, constant brake application, abrasion of rolling rails, fluctuation in gradient, corrosion, and weak track. So these are the some causes or the factors are responsible for wear of the rails. The one of the important is the abrasion or and the corrosion. So this abrasion and corrosion effect is one of the vital parameters or vital reason for the wear of the rails on the head part. Now wear at the end of the rails. So what are the wearing effect at the end of the rails and what are the causes? So this is the loose fish plates or the board. So you know what is fish plate? So fish plate is nothing but joining section. So this, suppose this one are the two railway track, means two railway segment. So these two railway segment are joined some fish plate on the inner side. Suppose this one is the one railway and that this one is the another railway track. So this railway track are joined from some inner part and the outer part. This joint part, this is known as the fish plate. So you have heard that the due to the displacement of the fish plate, the train has derailed in this position, or due to the displacement or due to the crack in the fish plate, the train has derailed and fall into some rivers, or due to some there are some fatal accident. So the importance of the fish plate is very vital for construction of for manufacturing of any laying down of any railway track. So loose fish plate is one of the reason for your wears at the end of the rail due to the blowing action of the wheel on the end of the rail. As the wheel jumps on the gap, the wheels of the rail will get bittered or wear much more in magnitude than the wear on the head of the rail. So what are the causes? The heavy load, the large joint opening, the different in the rail level at joint, and small wheels. So these are the some causes. So wear on the side of the heads, what are the causes? So basically causes are the slipping and skidding of the wheels at the curve, the trains run at lesser speed, and rigidity of the wheelbase. So one thing came in our mind that how the speed, the lesser speed is affect the trains. We have known till now that due to the higher speed, means higher to compare to the prescribed speed, if the trains is moving higher to the prescribed speed, the vehicles is stopping and there may be some accident occurs. But for the some cases, due to the lesser speed also, the derailment or accident, or not the accident, there may be some wear and tear effect on the head of that particular rail, because the lesser speed means what? The lesser speed means the friction will be more, the amount of friction will be more, but the railway tracks is not capable to sustain that much of friction. So that is the reason that we have to move the train in a prescribed speed, not more than the prescribed speed, not lesser than the prescribed speed. Next is the method to reduce the wear. So there are some few methods are there. Use specially alloy steel, regular tightening of fish bolt and packing of ballast, reduction of number of joints, correct edging of slipper, lubricating the gauge face. Sorry, that will be the lubricating the gauge face at curve, and the check rail parallel to inner rails can be introduced. So see, this one is a type of the cracking. So the cracking of the railway is known as the creep. Now what is creep? If the longitudinal movement of rail with respect to sleeper in a track, common to all railway tracks, value changing from 0 to 130 mm per month. Creep indicator used to measure the creep rate. So creep is nothing but the change of length, means change of length of the railway track due to temperature variation, that is known as the creep. Now there are two aspects. One is change of the length due to temperature, means at summer season, and another is winter season. So this is the, so just keep one thing in your mind, just give that to your mind, that the variation of the length due to the temperature is known the creep. That is the simplest definition of the creep. Now what are the various types of causes of creeps, or what is the function of creep, or how we can eliminate the creep, that will be discussed in the later. So the creeps principle means what are the causes of creeps. So basically the creeps may occur by three causes. One is brakes, one is wave motion of the wheel, one is the change in the temperature. So brakes, why? Because in some places we have to apply sudden brakes in your forest area. So if you have traveled in forest area, there may be chances of moving of your elephant or your deer, some animals from the forest to cross the tracks. And in that case, if sudden an animal came in the track, or sudden one person came in the track, the driver tries to apply the brakes, and it causes the emergency brake. So this emergency brake is highly dangerous, not only for the track, for the life of the track, also for the life of the passengers. So the always drivers are avoid to apply this emergency brake, but in some cases they have to apply this emergency case brakes. So the brakes is one of the responsible parameters for creep. So how the starting the rail pushed back, and at stopping the railway pushed forward. So this pushed back and pushed forward are the responsible parameters for the creep in the railway. Next is the wave motion of the wheels. Due to the wheel loads, rail deflect as continuous beam and crashed at the support. So this is the wave motion of the wheel. Third one is the change in the temperature. As discussed, that due to the temperature variation, there will be some deformation in the length, and it is known as the creep of the railway. So that is the creep minor. That is the creep principle. Means the major creep, the causes of major creep, and this is the causes of the minor creep. So creeps are basically cracked or the broken part of that particular railway track. So what is the causes? The rails are not tightly fixed, the improper super elevation at the curve, heavy axle loads moving at high speed, heavy traffic in one direction, loose packing at the joint, and worldwide expansion of the at the joint. So these are the terms have already been discussed, and give some idea, at least give some idea what are the parameters are. Next, the creep factor determine the magnitude and the direction. Means what are the factors determine the magnitude and the direction of the creep. Means how the creep will be propagated, in which direction, whether it is a horizontal direction or it is a vertical direction, and what is the amount of the creep. So it depends on the determined by the alignment of the track, by the grade of the track, by the direction of the heavy traffic, and by poor maintenance of the track component. Next, what are the effect of the creep? Means what are the effect on the creep in the traffic movement of, means in railway engineering. The sleeper move out of his position in some portion. Whenever you have traveled in the train, you in some places you can find out the sleepers are moving out from the roads, sorry, from the tracks. So this is the effect. Means after the this may happens, means these are the outcomes of the creep. So the sleepers move out of the position, disturbance in the gauges, prevent proper expansion of joint, point and crossing get distorted, and difficult to refix the rail. Next, what are the remedies and prevention of the creeping? So the remedies and pulling back the rail, provision of anchor and anti-creepers. So these are the some provisions are given. Suppose for pulling back the rails by means of crowbars and the hooks, provision of anchors and anti-crease, 4 to 6 anchors per rail, use of steel throw slipper, have a good grip with the ballast to resist the movement of the slips. So these are the things which are the remedies or the prevention measures of the creep. Now what is the component? So this is the, we are till now we are discussing about the rails. So if you remember, the rails, ballast, sleeper, and your this are the parameter, these are the components of the whole railway engineering. So now we are discussing till now about the rails, and these are only the idea about the rails. We will discuss in details when we will discuss in the topic wise discussion. So next is the component of the ballast. So what are the components? So ballast is a granular material packed under and around the sleeper to transfer the load from sleeper to ballast. So as I said that this is the stone chips which are used for your load transfer from one portion to another portion of the railway track. So what is the component of the sleeper? So sleepers are the member laid transversely. So this is the longitudinal direction and this is the transverse direction. So basically the angle between the rails and the sleepers is 90 degrees. So the members laid transversely under this rail, which are meant to support the rail over them and transfer the load from rails to ballast. Means the load come on this rail, the that load should be transferred to the ballast through this sleeper, and from ballast to the subgrade, and from this sleeper to the subgrade through the ballast. So these are the concept. Means load, I repeat once, the load come on the rails, should be transferred to the ballast. So by which means by the means of sleeper. Now the loads come on the sleeper, it should be transferred to the your subgrade layer, means the soil layer. So what is a medium? The medium is our your ballast or the stone chips. Next is the component of the track gauge. So this is the track gauge. The track gauge is the minimum distance between the inner running faces of the two wheels. Yes, as I discussed at the beginning, if you remember that the distance, the inner distance between two wheels is known as the gauge or the track gauge. So as I said that the broad gauge it is 1.67 meter, the meter gauge is 1 meter, the narrow gauge is 0.762 meter, and the light gauge is 0.610 meter. So these are the things you should know, and you should have some idea where these broad gauge are used and what is the gauge width for that broad gauge, and which type of gauge are used in which part of the India. So basically in hilly part this meter gauge or this narrow gauge type of railway tracks are used. Next, again the selection of the gauge. So the gauge are selected based on undevelopment of areas, volume and nature of the traffic, speed of the movement, and cost of the construction. So these are the parameters we should be kept in mind while selection of the gauge. Next is the coning of wheels and edging of slipper. So the coning of wheels is itself a vast topic. We will be discussed in a thorough discussion with some mathematical problem solution. First, what is the coning of wheels? So the surface of the wheels are made in cone shape at an inclination of 1 in 20 gradient, and the same slope is provided in the race. This is known as the coning of the wheels. Means that the cone making in the wheels is known as the coning of the wheels, and based on this coning of the wheels, the same slope is provided in the rails. And what is the edging slipper? The process of cutting the wooden slipper and casting the concrete slipper to obtain the inward slope of 1 in 20 for rail is known as the edging slipper. So this is basically applicable where we can see the wooden slipper, but as I said that nowadays it is rare to see the wooden slipper. So the edging of slipper, this things came in the picture when we want to replace uh, the slipper by some concrete slipper instead of the wooden slipper. We have to provide some extra gradient in 1 into 20, and for that is the that phenomena is known as the edging of the slipper. So permanent way, the requirement of the permanent way is the gauge should be correct and uniform, the rail should be in a proper level, the alignment should be correct, the gradient is gentle as possible, the radii and the super elevation on the curve should be properly designed and maintained, joints should be properly designed and maintained, the track structure should have low initial as well as maintenance cost. So this is a brief about your your railway engineering. There are details discussion are there. This is just a rough idea about your railway engineering. So if you have any question regarding the basic thing, my mail ID, my contact number and WhatsApp number is already given in the previous in the initials. So you can find over there, and you can ask me any question regarding any topic from your syllabus. So till the next class, thank you, enjoy the classes. So if you have any doubt apart from this topic, from railway engineering topic, from even from the other parts of the transportation engineering which is not covered in your syllabus, say suppose airport engineering or Harvard dock tunnel, so you can also ask me the question in by the in this given mail ID and the WhatsApp number. So till the next classes, thank you, and be happy and be safe. Thank you all.